In this video, we're going to be finding the area of rectangles with fractional side lengths. So before we get started, let's review area. Remember that when you have a rectangle, that is not a very pretty rectangle. Sorry about that. That's still not a pretty rectangle. We're going to have to pretend those sides are straight. When you have a rectangle, let's say this side is 4, this side is 3, let's call it inches. 4 inches and 3 inches. In order to find the area, all you're going to do is multiply 4 times 3, and our area would be 12 inches squared, or 12 square inches. Now, we're going to change it up a little bit because instead of 4 and 3, we're going to say 4.5 and 3 2/3 and practice our multiplication of mixed numbers from yesterday. Let's go ahead and jump into these 4 problems together. Here we have our first one. Meet me on this one. As you can see, we've got 2/3 times 2 2/5. Just because there's a square there or a rectangle there really doesn't change what we're going to do. We're just going to call it finding area, and we're just going to multiply the numbers. Let's go ahead and bring our 2/3 over because we know that stays the same. But you know that this 2 2/5 cannot stay the same. We're going to have to turn it into an improper fraction in order to multiply it by our 2/3. So remember, in order to do this, we are going to say 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. That is our policy. That is the way we do it every single time. You're going to take your denominator, multiply it by your whole number, and add the numerator. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So our fraction is going to be 12 is our numerator. And we're going to keep the denominator exactly the same. It's going to be 5. So instead of 2 2/5, you've got 12/5. Now here comes the easy part. Just multiply straight across. 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 5 is 15. But you aren't done yet. Now we have to turn it into a mixed number. Again, like I told you in the last video, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. You can divide, you can subtract. Some people just know it. I'm going to subtract on this one. Again, if you'd prefer to divide, that's totally fine. And when you're doing it on your own, you can choose the method. But right now, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to say 24/15 minus 15/15. And remember that 15/15 equals 1 whole. So I'm going to say 24 minus 15. I'm going to borrow from my 2, make it a 1, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So I know that I pulled out a 1 as my whole number. And I've got 9 left over. And my denominator stays the same at 15. Let's review that to make sure we caught how we did that. I had 24/15 and I subtracted 15/15, or 1 whole. When I pulled that 1 whole out, I know that I had 1 whole number, and I had a remainder of 9. So I'm going to pop that remainder on as my numerator and keep my denominator exactly the same. Now I know what you're thinking. You can simplify that, and yes, you can. We're going to divide both numbers by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So our answer is 1 3/5. So basically what we did yesterday, just adding a rectangle to it to find that area. Let's jump into the next problem. Let's do our 1 5/8 times 3/4. 1 5/8 times 3/4. So first things first, we are going to take a look at our 1 5/8, and we're going to turn it into a mixed number. Turn it into an improper fraction. It already is a mixed number. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 5. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 over 8. Remember, that's how we turn it into an improper fraction. Let's look at our next one. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 3, 13, 14, 15 over 4. Our denominator stays exactly the same. We've got some big numbers in this one. We're going to have to multiply 13 times 15. Go ahead and do this with me. Let's multiply 13 times 15 and make sure we remember how to multiply 2-digit by 2-digit numbers. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Remember, you can pause the video at any point you need to catch up. Remember to add our 0. If you do not add the 0 in the ones place, you are going to get it wrong. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Add it up. We got 195. So I know that 13 times 15 is 195. And 8 times 4 is 32. Oh, goodness. That's a big number. For this one, I think I'm going to divide. Because I know it's not just a fraction, it's also a division problem. I know you said it out loud. We've got 195 divided by 32. So I'm going to count in my head by 30s because I could estimate that it's kind of close to 30. So I got 30, 60. I'm going to write them down. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 190. I'm going to try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to try 32 times 6 and see what we get. 32 times 6. Sometimes with these division problems, we're out of practice on how to divide. You just have to guess that number and try it out. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19. There we go. 32 can go into 195 6 times. Make sure you put that 6 over the 5 because 32 can't go into 19. We know that 6 times 32 is 192. Let's subtract. We've got 3 left over. So take a look at it. Our whole number is 6 because it's the answer. And then we're going to put our remainder of 3 over our divisor of 32. I know you're questioning, but Miss Wilson, can you simplify that? Remember, we start with 2. Both numbers are not even, so we can't divide by 2. And I'm looking at 32, and I cannot divide 32 by 3. So there's no way to simplify. Your answer is 6 and 3 over 32. Let's jump into the next one. And for this next one, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and have you solve this. This should be review from yesterday, so we should be pretty good at it by now. It does have a tricky part. You see that whole number? You have to think about what to do with it. Go ahead and set up this problem, 2 and 5, 6 times 3, and go ahead, work it out, and then we'll do it and check it together. For this one, I hope you remember that whenever you have a whole number, you're going to put that whole number over 1. Because 3 over 1 is the same as 3. Now, for your 2 and 5, 6, you should have said 6 times 2 is 12, plus 5 is 17 over 6. So we have our 3 over 1 times 17 over 6. Double check your work and make sure it's looking just like mine. You could have these reversed. You could have 17 over 6 times 3 over 1. That would work too. It doesn't matter. Because we know with the flip-flop those factors, commutative property, you can just switch them. So let's go ahead and multiply 17 times 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. 51 over 6. 51 over 6. Let's divide because it's not just a fraction. It's also a division problem. 51 divided by 6. I saw people making this mistake yesterday. Somebody put 51 on the outside of the division house. Make sure the top number is what goes in that division house. How many times can 6 go into 51? I know that 6 times 5 is 30. And 6 times 6 is 36, sorry. But 6 times 7 is 42. And 6 times 8 is 48. That's probably as close as I'm going to get. So we're going to put our 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Let's subtract. We've got 11 minus 8. So that gives me 9, 10, 11. 3 left over. So our answer is going to be 8. And we've got a 3 over 6. But if we have 3 over 6, we know that we can divide that by 3. And if you divide that by 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we have 8 and 1/2 as our answer. I hope you got that one right. If you did not, make sure you double check your work to see where you went wrong. And if you don't understand what happened, raise your hand so I can come help you. Let's look at this last problem. Last one, a little close there. For this one, you've got 3 3/5 times 1/2. Go ahead, set it up, and solve it. I'm going to go ahead and bring over my 1/2. It's going to make it first. Remember, you could have done it first or second. The commutative property said the order of the factors does not matter. Now let's do our 3 3/5. I know that 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. So the equivalent fraction, equivalent improper fraction for 3 3/5 will be 18/5. Now let's multiply. 1 times 18 is 18. 2 times 5 is 10. For this one, I think I'm going to use the subtraction method. When the numbers are closer together, it's easier to use the subtraction method to figure out what the mixed number is going to be. So again, just like I did before, I'm going to say minus 10 tenths, because I know that 10 tenths equals 1 whole. 18 minus 10 is 8 over 10. So I've got 1 in 8 over 10, but you can simplify. I hope you simplified it. 8 over 10 divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my answer is going to be 1 4/5. Looking good, looking good. That was a pretty straightforward one. You could have said 18 divided by 10 and drawn it out this way, and you would have gotten the exact same answer. Just depends on how you like to solve it. Make sure you double check in that work and your work matches mine. Make sure you're raising your hand if you have any questions, and let's get started on that classwork.